The Kiros Report is honored for the first time to bring a remarkable writer, artist, that is a performer, a poet laureate for the city of Malden, who comes from the great state of Kentucky. She has performed at Berklee College of Music, where I am a professor of philosophy until recently, and the Kennedy Center for the Arts, the New York Public Library. She has authored a book with a prestigious press, including a collection of poems in a title tantalizingly called Self-Portrait with Severed Head, metaphorically powerful. I have invited her for the first time, hoping that this would lead to her episodic appearances and the Kiros Report to talk about a wide range of topics because she's so multi-talented, a poet, a performer, and most importantly, a writer who has been helping all kinds of writers across a long period of time to be able to learn how to write and then to know where to send their writings to. So, welcome to the Kiros Report, Ms. Collins.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Mhm. And I must tell my viewers that I met this great writer at YMCA in Melrose. We talked about Noam Chomsky because I had interviewed him and did a book with him. And then she asked me what I did, and we exchanged our crafts. And then since then, I've been seeing her on different occasions. She's a great athlete also. She works out, she takes care of herself, which led for us to consider appearing in this particular episode together because I happen to be a writer like her, a television producer. I also dabble in poetry, but I wouldn't dare to consider myself a poet. So we're going to compartmentalize our themes and topics today essentially into two areas. We're going to begin talking about writing first. And then towards the end, I'm going to ask her to select a few of her poems. And if she's also inclined, she could also read a paragraph or two from her published novel. I think it's called The Heat. And this should keep us busy for an hour. So let's talk about writing. I am a writer, have published about 25 books, I think. But there is something that bothers me about writing. I'm not the kind who believes in drafts.
Mm,
Something's wrong with me as a writer. I just can't look at my own work and do a second draft because I only write one page a day, which I've been doing for the past 40 years. It's as if I'm writing drafts in my head, and by the end of the day, I'm so exhausted that I couldn't wait until I just let the words pour out of me, and I cannot take a second look at them, which means that the first draft is full of errors. So I'll have to dump it on an editor to clean it because I myself am just incapable of rereading and rewriting my drafts. What's wrong with me? How are you going to fix me?
okay. There's nothing wrong with you. I have found in my writing life and in my connection with writers, there are those two types of writers. For some, it comes out in full paragraphs, full sentences, and it's perfect because the work is already done in your mind. For me, I write, my goal is to write without thinking, so that I can get down to the juicy part below the chatter part and get into that stream of consciousness, semi-conscious state. And it's complete chaos when it comes out. So my writing is focused on editing. and rewriting. And I'm fortunate enough to be in a writing group with a few people who are ruthless. And I'll bring in 5 pages and I'll leave with 2 paragraphs, with blood on the page because they are so scrupulous with their edits. And it saves me so much time because I can see what how they're evolving my writing. And I really appreciate having um, that mirroring and that excellent feedback. And each person in the class, I mean, in our group, our critique group, gives a very different point of view. They're two fiction writers and a poet, and they see things in really different ways, and so um, it brings they're not always in harmony, but it brings a lot of perspective for me, and my writing grows from that. But I think there's nothing wrong with the way you do it whatsoever.
Are you sure? I'm very jealous of you, and I have two novels that are finished. I
Mhm.
just can't read them and correct them. I'm sure that they're full of errors. And
Oh,
in my case, of course, English is not even my first language. I dared to write in English, having come to the States when I was 19 years old. And within 3, 4 years, after reading 5, 6 novels a week, I guess I developed some kind of mastery of the language. And I published my first article, I think, when I was 24 years old. So I'm
mm.
daring. Something must be wrong with me, not to workshop any of my writings. I have never appeared in a workshop. I'm a lonely writer. I just write alone. And then, as I said, I just send it to editors because I can't do first draft, second draft, third draft. So I'm always even shy to admit this because all these so-called great writers
Mm.
are continuously talking about spending an entire day like Flaubert uh,
Yes,
to change a comma. There is a joke, about
true,
Flaubert.
true.
He
To,
spent all day. One day, someone was walking by in the morning. We saw him struggling, sitting on a bench and writing, I suppose. And at the end of the day, when the person came back and he asked Flaubert, Comment allez-vous, monsieur Flaubert? Très bien. What did you do today? He said, I changed the comma. So when I heard this story, I just began torturing myself. I said, I should stop considering myself to be a writer because I don't do any of this.
Sure.
Uh,
I
on
think you
interest.
need to just let that go. Let that go. You're doing fine. And you do have editors, right? That I mean, writing is it's a lonely craft. It's a lonely occupation. We do it in solitude. And so if you have editors that take care of that, I think you're fine. You don't need to change anything. This is your style. You've been doing this for so many years.
Mm.
Oh, and this
But
is when you were 24, you published your first article in English. Is that right?
yes, I'm
Wow.
so daring. Yeah. Well, now that I've become your friend, I think I'm going to show you some of my works for you to just cut it to pieces, and maybe I'll give you 600 pages and you'll give me 2 pages.
Exactly. You'll get three or four.
Yeah. Anyway, what I have read about you is quite impressive. You're apparently a great writer, suitably recognized. So, how do you do it? Let's talk about you.
Okay. I started writing when I was around 4 years old. And the reason that I started to write, that I wanted to put words down on the page, and I did it in my speaking too, is that the world that I saw reflected and talked about and accepted the conventional wisdom was not what I was experiencing. It was not what I was seeing. And so I wanted to record my view of the world that was at variance with conventional wisdom. And that friction is what got me started writing. And I have continued to do that since that age. When I first discovered there's power here, there's power in these words. And I come from a family that was, um, they my father was a sharecropper, um, and he he really he was highly intelligent but uneducated, and I was amazed by him. He had his own. He built houses in town, built beautiful houses. He would never remove topsoil. He would never cut down trees. And
Mm.
people who moved into his houses never wanted to move out because he didn't cut corners. And I was amazed by he would write letters and I would put them onto my computer and print them out for him. And his grammar was flawless and he was so articulate. And I don't know how he accomplished that with the amount of education that he had. These were farm kids. They didn't get to go to school until um, all the crops were in. So they all started till the tobacco was housed. So they started school after the first 6 weeks. They started their year with all Fs because they weren't there. And so he overcame many things, and he's a role model for me. And so is my mother, both independent entrepreneurs.
Incredible. And at the expense of embarrassing you, what is remarkable about you is your humility. When I met you at the Y, how little did I think that you're this great writer, which you are, nationally recognized, because none of this accomplishment betrays itself in the way you move, in the way you behave at the Y. So simple, so accessible, uh, truly remarkable.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I began reading on you. You are not only a poet laureate, but you have published in some of the dream magazines in
Mm,
which I would like to be published. But none of this is present in your personality. It's as if you don't embody it. I appreciate that.
thank you.
That's very, very impressive. And I mean it from my heart. Now, let's move to discuss who are your model writers. We all have models, writers that we admire. For me, for example, to begin with me, it's a combination of Hemingway
Mhm.
and Dostoevsky.
Mm,
Uh, so the two writers that I look at, I still do it. When I'm writing anything, I try to look at their sentences by which I measure the form of my own sentences. I
mhm.
need standards to look at. I guess I have replaced the obsession with drafts with an imitation of great writers.
Mhm. And these are two very different writers.
Very different
Like
writers.
Betsy is a master of complexity and
Exactly.
is always trying to simplify and make a simple sentence, um, and show the part of the iceberg and imply the hidden iceberg, the size of it.
Precisely. Yes.
I did I hear this from Margaret Atwood or Virginia Woolf, maybe, or maybe even Mary Gordon, that said that that women can really admire male writers, but where we're going to learn is from female writers about how uh, to manifest our vision. And I love Hawthorne. I love Margaret Atwood. I like I'm reading right now Ian McEwan,
Mhm.
and he wrote Atonement. I think there's no better book than Atonement to get into the what I get from reading poetry and fiction is the inner life. And there are very few places where we get to witness the inner life, and we need this, and we need to be reading. And this is what I tell my students when I'm teaching. Your assignment is to read. I'm going to give you form for how to look for literary devices, similes and metaphor and personification, but I want you reading and as well as writing because I want you to read as a writer and to study. Margaret Atwood can go from 2 centuries back into the future, into a description of laundry, in a paragraph and you're in a take you to a different world. So I really admire her. I'm getting ready to read James by Percival Everett, and whom I haven't read, and I'm looking forward to that. And I want to read everything. I have stacks of books there, and people give me books, and that's what I do in the evening is read.
Incredible.
I
What did
read,
you,
I study it.
yes, what did you get trained, formally trained?
I went to the University of Kentucky,
Okay.
and I went there for undergraduate and graduate school. Uh,
Hmm.
Wendell Berry was what taught me, and Wendell Berry is, he was the first person to be talking about agribusiness, and he has beautiful poetry and prose and essays, and he had the most clear mind of anyone I've ever listened to. And the first grading period, he gave me an F. He said, I don't know what sex anybody is. I don't know what's going on. We don't have scene. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do it what you tell me to do. And then he called on me to give a speech as his most improved student. And I had him a couple of times in a creative writing classes. Guy Davenport, who's a wonderful scholar. Um, I I was fortunate enough to have a seminar on James Joyce. Um, we did Ulysses, and then when I moved to Boston, Pamela Painter at Harvard um, at night extension was a wonderful mentor to me. And she said, you need to be sending these stories out. And so she got me sending my stories out. And she said, I'm remembering your characters. And she's also ruthless. She'll tell students, go work in a bank if she thinks they shouldn't be writing. So she was extremely supportive to me. She's been wonderful. I've been very fortunate in Boston because people like to hear stories. They like to hear stories. And Southerners, we're still sitting on our porches telling stories and stringing beans. We're still doing that. We still value that. And it's like there's more time. I don't know how we manage that to have more time in the South versus in the rural South versus an urban setting. So I feel really fortunate that I came to Boston and started reading poems, and then I started working with musicians. And in the early 90s, I was part of the resurgence of spoken word with music. We started with Jeff Robinson Trio and the Plow and Stars, and he called it Poetry Jam. And we were putting spoken word to music. And that was wonderful for me. And then I had a band, all-female band. We called our work chamber rock. We had a classically trained viola player and then people that had been in a rock band. Interestingly, we a friend of mine, we went to Maine and we came back through Boston. Our car broke down, and,
Mhm.
and some people tried to help us and set the carburetor on fire. They put to kind of set the car on fire. So it was 5 o'clock on a Friday. And so we had to stay in Boston. We were near Harvard Square over the weekend, and we went to a bar, and there was this all-female band, and I thought, and they were just like there were like 10 of them, and they were called Miss Bliss, and I thought, wow, I've never seen anything like that. And so my friend ended up going to the museum school. She's a photographer, and I moved up here, and some of the people in that band ended up being my first band.
Wow.
They had disbanded, and so I felt really fortunate. And we were called Pin Curl. And then we made an album together called Kentucky Stories. It won Best Spoken Word Album in Boston. They were giving out awards in Cambridge and Boston. And then I've produced four more albums with a band that I call Rockabetty. And then my most recent album is with a blind autistic musical savant from Russia named Santon.
Incredible. There are so many things that I want to talk to you about. It's so rich. Now, Correct me if I'm wrong. How is it that some of the greatest literary magazines are located in Kentucky? What is it about Kentucky that produces writers? Is it the Kentucky water? Or,
It-
what do you
it's,
drink? What do
it's
they
in the
eat?
water. It's bad for our teeth, but it's good for our. There, we do have. Um, we are People think they can understand Kentucky by flying over Kentucky
Hmm.
coast and looking down, and you can't really understand us that way. You need to come and get to know us. And I think that I'm very proud of the people who come from Kentucky, Barbara Kingsolver, um, with Demon Copperhead, and we just have. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he was saying that he likes to listen to Southerners because of the poetry that the metaphors we naturally use. And
Hmm.
the my most prime person that I listen to is my friend who is a handyman. His name is Ray Oney, and he's from deep in the mountains. And everything that comes out is poetry, is metaphor. And I've been trying to capture him for years, and I can't capture him. His name is Ray Oney. His son is named Tony Oney. And I said, now Ray, when you had your son, you named him Anthony. Didn't you think people would call him Tony Oney? And he said, yeah. And I said, what's your mom's name? He said, Zoni Oney. And he goes, it's really Arizona. They call her Zoni Oney. But he's a little guy. He's my size. I can wear his clothes. And he just, the way he thinks about things, like, get your head on, girl. He talks to me, and everything that comes out is poetry. And we're complex. We're considered a red state. We're actually a very purple state. We have a very popular Democratic governor, Andy Bashir. And we have done interesting things. For example, there's the Keystone XL pipeline, and there was the Bluegrass pipeline that they were trying to get through Kentucky, and they said it was going to provide natural gas. But really, it was going to be fracking effluvium and highly combustible. And we had Christian right, hippies, left wing, right wing, cheerleaders, you know, lawyers all got together and had solidarity and stopped that pipeline. So
Hmm. And
we
now,
we're in the same place.
I see. And now there is one theme that also fascinates me about writers. Correct me if I'm wrong, because most of the time I'm more wrong than I'm right, because I'm very opinionated by nature. I think there's a difference between female and male writers.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
How,
I I
what, yeah, what do you ground that on? Anatomy, biology, or conditioning? But there are differences, am I right?
think there are differences. I
Mhm.
think that there are, like D.H. Lawrence, for example. uh,
Yes.
he um, he has a well-developed um, anima and animu both. And
Hmm.
and so there's definitely overlap.
Hmm.
But I do think that the experience of being any experience that's dominant, race, class, gender, is going to give a different viewpoint because it's going to filter the world. That
I see.
it's a world I see it through these filters, the way that I'm responded to. And so I think that when people see me, they have certain ideas about who I am, how I'm going to behave, and what I say. And
Hmm.
it's a delight to see their shock that I'm not the person that they assume that I am, what they project on me, and what they project on me when they hear my Southern accent. I get that. I've never seen, um, I didn't really know I was Southern until I moved to New England, but there's incredible stereotypes about what gets assumed about me that I can't, that I won't be able to make a sentence, uh, that I'm going to be racist, that I'm going to get out of their way somehow because I'm small, and that I'm not going to talk back. So my experience has been having to, I feel like I've had to fight to to survive. And in my book After Heat, it is a novel, but it is partially based on um, me and a burn accident that I survived when I was 10
See.
and the trauma of that.
Mhm.
But in terms of men and women, I think that we anything that's that overt, the way the world sees us and the way, I used to be a massage therapist and I massaged the Chicago Bulls.
Mhm.
You would think that would be they would have hard muscles.
Yes.
They have soft muscles because they have healthy muscles and they're relaxed. They are over 6 feet tall, almost 7 feet tall. They're not prey. They're not going to have to run. And then I would get somebody my size, sometimes an Asian woman, and I'm like, this is going to be easy. No, they're tense because they're on guard. So it's a different in our experience every day.
I think you're quite right. At the expense of embarrassing you, I remember the first time we met at the Y, and then we talked a bit, and then I told you that I'm a television producer, and then I mentioned Chomsky.
Mm.
Your eyes just brightened up. It's as if you're saying, "Who is this man who is telling me that he interviewed Chomsky?" And then he also saw me doing that some heavy weights.
Oh my gosh.
Remember?
Yeah,
That's how
you
we.
were you were at the very bottom of the weight stack.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you asked me how I did that and so on. And then this led us to be friends. So I think your point is quite well taken. It's the experiential component, I think, which functions as a lens through which we produce writing, which is necessarily, not contingently, but necessarily filtered through how others look at us and the defense mechanisms that we have to develop to assert our humanity. In your case, it's your frame, it's your weight, it's your height, it's your smallness. I guess in my case, it would have to be my skin color, through which people are going to narrate who I am and what I do and what I do not do. Sadly, you're quite right. In this sense, then, there are differences that are affected by the way that others look at us as males and females. That
I want to add that I was doing a reading once and I had a strapless mini dress on and this a friend of mine, male, walked up to me and he goes, "That's not fair. That's not fair that you get to get attention by wearing, like a by being wearing this sexy dress." And I said, you know, it's a brave thing for me to do this. It's a brave thing. What you have as a white male is just being a person.
hmm,
I don't have that. I'm going to be seen as female. That's the first thing. You are person. You're human, and
excellent
you get a lot of there's a lot of protection for you and anonymity for you because when you get up, people are going to listen to you.
remarkable. You said it all brilliantly. Now, you're also a performer. Incredible. You're so gifted. So, what is the connection between writing and music?
I I started out just doing readings in Boston. And then when I was invited to perform with this band, I'm not singing most of the time. I'm putting spoken word, and I'm making the the voice be kind of half sung. And as music is put to it, it helps me um, revise and simplify what I'm saying so that the words can cut across the music and it can be heard. And I also, working with the band, I'm not a vocalist who's screaming over the band. The band has to really be the background and enhance what I'm saying. And when I worked with Santon, for example, I would say this poem, let's write a tango for this. Write a tango for this. And he could do that. Um, he's a savant. He was a Berkeley grad, and let's have this one be folk, and let's sing. Let's do a verse and chorus with this. And he could just. It isn't that we could talk about these things. He was doing it intuitively, and
See.
oh, it was, and then we were improving, and then we would get it into shape. And we did, this sounds like, I want you to, one song that I did, I wrote a poem called Storm King, um, about a Kentucky boy that was near the end of World War I taking the Devon's literacy test. And if you know the Devon's literacy test, they ask these absurd questions. And he kind of tells his story by answering the questions in a way that he knows he's going to fail the test and he knows he's going to be sent to the front lines. And I said, but that's what he wants because he's a junkyard dog. And I said, I want you to play Beautiful Dreamer in the style of Floyd Kramer.
Hmm.
And he did that. And he put that, we put that to music. So it's an infinite variety of things. And each person that was brought into my band, um, we had a high school jazz person. He would make up melodies. He was there. We brought somebody in that from a rock background, and they would bring what they had. I had a banjo player, so and a beautiful violin player. I'll show you some of my albums at the end if you'd like. Let me just show you a couple albums. So here's my novel After Heat,
That's
and
really very good. Yes.
it takes a lot of nerve to put like a naked picture of yourself on
That's
your.
you.
That's me,
Mm.
showing the scars. And my friend took this photograph and called the image Body Lace. Um, and then my book of short stories, which is going to be coming out with the UK press, a reprint, and then Self Portrait with Severed Head. I know that title freaks me out, but a here's a couple of the albums, C.D. Collins and Rockabilly. Also, coal is not clean. Clean coal, big lie. And
How
then
big how big is your band?
I'm not working with the musicians right now. The last person that I worked with, Santon, there were just the two of us. So it's
Mhm.
been as big as, you know, five or six, just depending.
I'm thinking that I'm going to talk to the great Patrick Doyle, the studio manager in Melrose. Absolutely brilliant. We might want to invite you to perform at our studio, I
Okay.
think.
Okay. That would be
The,
wonderful.
and in that, I'll talk to him, and we usually do this on Saturdays. It's an extremely busy studio,
Okay.
but let me work out the details with Patrick, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
All right.
Shall I do a poem?
Yes, now we're going to move to the actual stuff, namely your work. So I would like you to choose a few poems, read them, and interpret them for us.
Okay.
Although it's sent to interpret poetry, but I will have you interpret one or two poems, why you wrote them and what the message is, if you don't mind.
Okay. Or you can give any feedback that you want. Let me have a sip here. Hmm. A decade from now, when everyone works either for Amazon or Starbucks, when Jeff Bezos has been coronated king, I'll be down south in a compound like Jim Jones or David Koresh, except my followers will be nomadic cats who smoke burleywood pipes and tattered dogs who never get dental checkups, and my religion will be horticulture. Carrots, sweet corn, and bush beans called Kentucky Wonders. I will sit cross-legged and watch the sunset flare, unnatural but gorgeous colors, like a Duraflame log, which burns for hours, consumes itself without an ash, and I'll talk to my father. What I really want to say is that I miss my father's vegetable beef soup, always a pot full, or brown beans and cornbread fried in a cast iron skillet. Plenty. Always made sure we had something good to eat. Not Mom. Her basic food group, Sara Lee cinnamon wedges, drip grind coffee, Jack Daniels, and Kent's cigarettes, gathering in ashes as long as a philosopher's forefinger. My dad ate his soup in the den, listening to Rush Limbaugh. He didn't like the look of his dentures that student at the medical center made. He'd been so handsome, strong, built half the houses in town. Dined privately now, then came out to where my mother and I talked at the cherry dining room table and repeated everything Rush said, wheezing with laughter. Rush's jokes hit him like a two-by-four. My mother would fire rebuttals as she scanned the seed catalog: black tulips from Holland, purple string beans, and blue potatoes. She could defeat Rush Limbaugh without a pause in her page turning, and that was the reason he did it. To hear that back talk, to rile us. To him, this was a good time. This was conversation. There was no malicious intent when he said, I got to go meet one of my secretaries now. I'm going to a militia meeting over at Ruby Ridge. I'm expecting Stormy Daniels at 3. Just tell her to wait in the den. What I really want to say is that I shop for bones in Star Market in Cambridge. Beef bone sawed with a sharp blade on a January day so cold spit froze in the air. Wind boomerang words back into my mouth and burned my skin like a flat iron. Though I am vegetarian, I bought 4 bones, which I roasted in a pan while sauteing onions, carrots, mushrooms in the big Dutch oven. I deglazed the bones with good red wine from Italy, added to the soup along with the herbs, chopped tomatoes, barley, simmered it for a few hours to let the flavors blend, carried it to the new house, and fed the carpenters. What I really want to say is that I don't know who I am anymore. I have reabsorbed like mist into the ocean, shattered like the window in the witch's house, the one made of purple candy. I never knew how fragile, how brittle, how easily lost. I carry this loss like cotton candy spun with pink light inside my chest, insubstantial instead of heart meat, lungs like bagpipes. I feel the hollow when I trail after someone leaving in the snow. Please don't go. A hole like a hollow-nosed bullet through the third chakra, the sun, the self. Hollow nose, small at the entrance, blow your whole back out. I fall into the deep, cold sky, searching for my father in a blue star. I will ask him questions. What would you do, Dad? And he'll say, stand up for yourself. You don't have to take any crap. Tell them all where to go. I've seen my father crawl up a man like a panther. My 5'7" father up a 6'3" man because he stuck by the man, bailed him out of jail, given him a job, and seen him through. He didn't like to be betrayed the way the man done him. My father's absence, a betrayal too. Death is an absence I'm bound to forgive. He'd always been remote, seemed closer now, in the bone marrow, in the recipes written in blue ballpoint, on yellow legal pads, in the seed packets that arrive in February, square, colorful, spread across the cherry dining room table like candy promised to a little girl.
Incredible.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to write this piece and how many drafts?
It took me a while, and I most of it came out in this chaotic first draft, and then I worked with it, I cut it, I listened to it, and then I've had to change the beginning because in the beginning there was a different president, and so some of the poems still do evolve, and but it took, I would say, a few weeks, a few weeks, yeah,
And
to finish it.
you sound like you were rapping. What's the connection between rapping and poetry? I felt as if I'm listening to a hip hop rapper.
It is, I don't think of myself as a rapper, but it is, there's a rapper that's in the barber shop next to me, and he sees me and he'll start a rap. He's fantastic. I'm CD, he's DC.
Hmm.
It's finding the rhythm, it's finding the music,
Yeah.
it's committing it to muscle memory.
That's what I was sensing. I sensed music. It wasn't just prose, poetically rendered, but there is a rhythm, there is a musicality to every sentence has an image, a visual image that conveys the content. That's at least how I received it. I may be wrong.
No,
Maybe I need
I think that's
to try
exactly right.
it.
I think that's exactly right. Thank you for saying that.
Well, would you like to read another one for us?
All right. Um, what about death by salad?
Okay.
At Kathy's Country Kitchen in Stanton, Kentucky, you start your meal with a salad. You can choose tossed, pear, macaroni salad, potato salad, deviled egg salad, cornbread salad, strawberry pretzel salad. Strawberry pretzel salad is a local favorite, and here's how you make it. You break up a large package of pretzels, you melt a stick of butter, and you mix it in with your crushed pretzels. You add a cup of nuts and a tablespoon of sugar, and you punch that down in a Pyrex pan and you bake it for 10 minutes at 350 degrees. In the meantime, you make 2 packages of strawberry jello with as much sugar as you can possibly dissolve. You add your frozen strawberries and you refrigerate that. Then you mix a container of Cool Whip with an 8-ounce package of cream cheese and half a cup of confectioner sugar. You spread that mixture evenly on top of your cooled crushed pretzels. Then you pour your half gel jello over top of that and put it in the refrigerator to set till dinner time. Now, people, this is not a salad, but at Kathy's Country, it's on the salad list, so you might order it anyway. Then you have your catfish dinner with yeast rolls or Johnny cakes, mashed potatoes with brown or white gravy, corn pudding, and of course, fried green tomatoes. Now it's time for desserts. There's the usual Southern list: butterscotch cream pie, chocolate cream pie, banana cream pie, and at the bottom, the actual dessert that you will choose: yellow cake with warm caramel sauce. The yellow cake of Kathy's Country Kitchen has the same density and longevity as the uranium yellow cake used to make fuel for nuclear reactors. It has a half-life of about 1,000 years, except that instead of being used to make a bomb or nuclear fuel, this yellow cake goes in your stomach, and once you eat it, your bliss is short. You become extremely ill with an insulin shock reaction on your way back down Levee Road. You want to die. You swear you will never eat again. But next time, when your waiter says, yellow cake with warm caramel sauce, It's like a cat charming a bird. You'll want it. And as soon as you get better, you're going to order it again.
Incredible. And now, you're also a singer, correct? Do you play
No,
any
I
instruments at
am.
all?
I play the flute badly, and
Mm,
sometimes I end up singing, but I'm not a singer. The only thing that I have right when I'm singing is the tone, is the feeling. But no, I'm not. I'm
mm,
definitely not a vocalist, but I do end up singing sometimes, which I think ought to be encouraging to people who think you need to be a real vocalist in order to get up and sing something. We all have voices, we can all sing, but I don't call myself
mm.
a singer. And I'm not even
I
sure
see.
that I call myself a true poet. I'm a writer.
Mm. And now, what I sensed when you were reading the poems is that you deliberately read them with a Kentuckian accent. Have you ever imagined reading them with a Bostonian accent? Because you have also lived in this area for quite a while. Or is it necessarily the case that the poems could only be read with a Kentuckian accent? Because the metaphors are Kentuckian.
So you heard a difference between the way I'm talking and the way I read my poem?
Absolutely. I can't help but see the contrast between the way you spoke to me at the Y and the way you are speaking to me right now. In fact, I'm shocked because I did not even think that you're a Southerner or a Kentuckian when I first spoke to you at the Y. I thought I was speaking to an Irish person, like my friend Patrick Doyle.
Well, you kind of are Scots Irish in the background for sure.
Mm,
I am not doing that intentionally. I heard myself doing it and it's not intentional. It is I just go there and for example, when I go home to Kentucky,
yeah,
if I stay, I'm unconsciously code switching, I think, to
yeah.
match where I am, but I'm not doing it on purpose. And when I go
You're
home,
doing it right now.
did I do it? I don't even know
Yeah,
how to do it. I
to
couldn't do,
my ears.
excuse me?
To my ears, I said,
Yes.
I just hear the Kentuckian in you, but then you switch into the Bostonian, the Irish accent.
I do not know if I had to do it on cue, I couldn't do it. But I do know
Mm,
that when I go home, that I'm pretty quickly will slide into not only a Kentucky accent, but Kentucky way of talking. Because if
yes.
I don't, then I'm going to be seen as um, acting like I'm better than somebody. You know,
Uh,
I've been up to Massachusetts. I've, been to those colleges, and I don't want to be excluded from my culture. And my
I see.
culture is complex, and sometimes it'll take me a week or two to really be able to read into the subtleties of how to read who I'm talking to. And it's important because I want to maintain um, equality, equity, and and maintain my relationships. But it's such a different interplanetary culture.
Mhm.
I
And
suffer in Massachusetts with the coldness. I do.
mhm, mhm. And I'm puzzled, a little bit puzzled. You make distinctions between being a poet and being a writer. What is the difference? Why can't you be a writer who writes poems and a poet who writes? Who is making these distinctions between writers who are writers because they are not poets and poets who are only poets and not necessarily writers? It's as if one cannot become a poet without being a writer. Similarly, one writer, if he or she chooses appropriately, could also write poems. I could do both. I
Mhm.
could write poems. They
Well,
may not be the best poem in the world, but they are extensions of writing to me. But maybe I need to be re-educated.
Well, this is my own point of view that to say a po like that I'm a poet feels a very high thing to say. And I reserve that
Mm,
for certain, I feel like maybe I've written a few poems that I think are really that really achieve that. Now that's a poem. Um,
your
that
collection of poems with severed head is a masterpiece. It's a work of poetry.
those are poems. Thank you. I also will the person in my writing class, Jennifer Barber, who was the poet laureate of Brookline for a while and
Mhm.
of Salamander magazine. What she does is distills so much. It's almost like she's making sculptures in the air. And I admire what the economy of it. And you're right. It's kind of self-deprecating to say that I'm not a poet and plus
Yes.
poet laureate. Um, but I don't think that everything that I write reaches that level of saying, now that's a poem.
Do you think that statement is unfortunately filtered through this mistaken view that we have about poetry, that the great poets are
Mhm.
males?
Mhm. Um,
Oh, some of the greatest poets are females.
mhm.
I wonder
I
if it has something to do with that, because we're so accustomed to thinking about Homer, for example, who's a male Greek writer who thought he knew everything until Plato critiqued him and put him in his place to a degree,
mhm.
humbled him.
I think that's not what I'm doing because if I'm looking around at the poets that I admire, um, they tend to be women. And so
Yes,
I'm seeing on a uh, I'm just I'm just not putting myself at that level, but I
I
don't think
understand.
I'm breaking it down along gender lines because
Okay.
I look for the female poets and the male poets too, but
Uh,
mainly the female.
I know how difficult it is, and I have to commend you for publishing in Salamander and the University of Pennsylvania. These are, and the Kentucky literary magazines. These are the best of the best. And you published in these pieces. So if anybody should brag, it's you. And additionally, you're also a poet laureate for the city of Malden. These are high achievements, but I appreciate the humility.
Well, I'm
One
taking in what you're saying, and I much appreciate what you're saying.
Well, this I think is going to be remembered as one of my best productions with a writer, a poet, and it's going to lead to more collaborations. Among other things, I'm going to seek your help as a writer. I'll share a few of my writings with you. As I said, I've never workshopped, I've never showed my writings to anybody. I simply write and they get published, and that is that. But I'll try to do differently. And additionally, we're also going to talk about bringing you to our studio, our fabulous studio, to do a performance, either solo or within the context of a band.
Do
So,
I do I have
must,
time for one short poem at the end?
of course, I'll be. Please do.
Okay. This is called Eclipse. Tonight a shadow covers the moon. The shadow, just a shadow, the world. The moon is full and singing its familiar song of O's. The voice vibrates in the hard cavities until the planet seems to live. There's a woman walking alone in the barren streets of the town as the shadow bites into the bright edges. You could say this woman traverses the sky, long trails of light years weaving themselves into her hammock. You could say her heart was the moon, cold and bright, or her eye in one quarter view. Yet these are only images. The light of the moon is a dust of glass, reflecting a distant star. The moon's surface slippery like silica, faintly reflective like volcanic sand. You could say the moon always shows the same face as it revolves with the earth in the light of the home star. You could say, yet this is only science. The shadow muffles the light like a hand of smoke until the voice is small, reverberation. She steps into a doorway out of the wind, listens as the voices rise from the craters, sea of clouds, sea of showers, ocean of storms. She hears the song about hushed deaths and persistent shadows, the song about the seed that must grow to the size of a galaxy in one lifetime, so that it may contain this astonishing, temporary illumination.
That is simply extraordinary. From my heart, it reminds me of the Baudelaire's prose poetry. I wrote my master's degree uh, in philosophy on Walter Benjamin's interpretation of the great Baudelaire. It had that kind of tone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing your special time with us, and we'll get in touch.
Okay, it's a great
And
book.
please make an effort to disseminate, help the Kiros Report by
Yeah,
sharing this performance with a very wide audience.
all right. Thank you, sir.
Please do. I'm sure you have many followers. Share them.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.